These numbers are completely derisory relative to the scale of the problem, and this is Starmer massively on the back foot. You know, his party is currently literally behind reform in the polls despite his enormous majority in the House of Commons. He's panicking, and they've rustled up this pathetic stunt. Well, taxpayers are not going to be deceived by this, are they?
This is a really simple rule, and you and I can disagree with it. In fact, I do disagree with it.
Sure.
But here is the rule. You can only be exempt for capital gains tax on the sale of your primary residence. And it is a classic dodge to pretend that, in fact, the other property that you're selling is your primary residence and your partner lives in that, and actually you're living parallel lives. It is a load of nonsense. It's quite obvious that she has tried to dodge here, in my opinion.
You know, taxpayers are entitled to be absolutely bloody furious that once again their intelligence is being insulted and their hard-earned cash is being squandered arranging exclusive private jet travel for Albanians who, you know, let's be frank,
have broken the law. Have broken the law.
They've broken the law, and what are they getting? 4 seats each or something on the private jet. What an absolute joke, and what a disgrace this government is.
And I think she's in real difficulty.
And
it is such a trivial amount of money, and I wouldn't mind so much if it weren't for the fact that Labour is so profligate with our money and proposes ever higher taxes, yet doesn't want to pay them themselves.
Keir Starmer once told a crowd he had a plan. That should have been the first red flag, because if Starmer has a plan, it's probably laminated, color-coded, signed off by 6 anonymous advisors, and includes at least one scheduled apology. And right next to him, like an unwanted side plot in a soap opera nobody asked for, stands Angela Rayner, who somehow manages to be the human version of shouting inside a metal shed. Loud, echo-filled, and totally unclear.
The purpose of this government is to make our public services and our economy work for working people, strengthen our country in a world that increasingly preys on weakness. It's a cause that demands nothing less than the full power of government. Yet that's precisely what's broken.
But then Isabel Oakeshott stepped into the conversation like a literary chainsaw dipped in sarcasm, and suddenly the entire Labour fantasy went up in flames, like one of Starmer's latest manifestos left too close to a radiator.
Over this, because we're the ones that have to face the consequences of having all these people in the country, in our country, who should not be here, and they're using it as some kind of hotel, despite the fact that many of these people that we're talking about here in these court cases actually have serious criminal records.
Yes. Keir Starmer is the kind of man who could watch a building collapse and still need 6 focus groups to decide if it was tragic. His political instincts are so overly cautious, he spends more time trying not to offend anyone than actually getting anything done. And Angela Rayner, she's like someone took the idea of working-class authenticity, ran it through a spin cycle, and had it read aloud by a glitchy Alexa.
Dry it, all done that. Hope it goes away. Or you can strip it out, rip out the plaster, and deal with the problem once and for all.
Isabel Oakeshott didn't just criticize them, she dismantled them like a GCSE biology project that had completely gone off track. She didn't need flashy quotes or over-the-top drama. All it took was a bit of logic, a touch of contempt, and a side-eye sharp enough to slice through Starmer's famously vague policy outlines like a scalpel through wet paper.
I think there is going to be political hell to pay for this deal that's being done today, this very, very dirty deal. Starmer has long been desperate to reverse Brexit, and now he's in a position where he's doing it in stages. This is a big set of concessions that he's making today, and actually far be it from me to praise the Tories, but I think James cleverly had it right when he tweeted this morning that Starmer has got diplomacy the wrong way.
Let's start with Keir Starmer's idea of leadership, which apparently means doing political taxidermy on every idea that once had life. He's taken Labour Party that used to have passion and turned it into a TED Talk delivered by a tired HR manager. Starmer promises change like a dodgy builder. He's got all the tools, but no clue what to do with them. And when challenged, he responds with all the emotion of a self-checkout machine, reminding you to remove your item from the bagging area. Rayner, on the other hand, walks into debates like she just binge-watched too much EastEnders, convinced that shouting, "I'm one of you," loud enough will make people forget. She's tossing out contradictions like confetti. Her entire act is built on the idea that being loud makes you right, which is cute. If you're 6.
But unless we fundamentally reform the way government goes about its business, unless we first change how we try to change the country, then the hairdryer is all we've got. And this is a big job. Prisons overflowing, the NHS on its knees, a £22 billion black hole in our public finances, which, to put that in context, is nearly half of what we spend on defence of...
Isabel, of course, wasn't having it. She treated Starmer's fake integrity like a knockoff handbag. Looks decent from a distance. But up close, the stitching's off. It smells weird, and it's probably held together with the tears of betrayed trade unions. She pointed out what everyone's known for ages. Starmer changes positions more often than a mattress in a budget hotel. He backed Corbyn until it got uncomfortable. He embraced Brexit when it became useful. He courted centrists, flirted with the left, and now seems to be ghosting everyone in favor of whoever's leading in the polls that week. And Rayner. Isabel cut through her shouting like a laser through butter. Behind all the dramatic outrage is a politician who thinks yelling about injustice is the same as fixing it. That if you drop enough G's and remind people you once worked in a care home, they'll overlook the fact that your policies have more holes than a secondhand sieve. Let's be clear. Oakeshott isn't exactly known for subtlety, but she didn't destroy these two with fire. She did it with cold precision. Like a surgeon bored of playing Operation Starmer, she made painfully clear isn't a leader. He's a human screensaver, occasionally flickering into relevance, but mostly just floating around doing nothing. His big vision for Britain: make everything slightly less embarrassing. Inspirational stuff.
Do is that you try to develop good relationships with other countries to further your own interests. You don't sacrifice your interests in order to develop better relationships with other countries. And Starmer, what bit of this doesn't he understand? The British public are absolutely fed up of the state of immigration. They are fed up with mass uncontrolled immigration. Starmer can shout as much as he wants about smashing the vile people smuggling gangs. He's smashed precisely 0 gangs.
Rayner, meanwhile, got hit with a kind of metaphorical slap that makes you rethink your life's choices. Isabel exposed her as someone whose grasp of policy drops the more confident she sounds. Honestly, it's impressive just how many words Rayner can throw out without saying anything real. It's like watching a TEDx talk from someone who only skimmed the headlines. But let's get into the details, shall we? Take Starmer's famous U-turns. There was the bold promise to nationalize public services, which lasted about 5 seconds, before he quietly filed it under not great for votes. Then there was his big moment on student debt. Remember that? Cancel the fees, stand with students, fight the good fight. That is, until someone showed him a spreadsheet. Then he ghosted Gen Z like a bad Tinder date. And when Starmer said he'd bring back trust in politics, you could practically hear irony choking in the background. This is the man who promised unity, then split his party wider than one of Rayner's. Exaggerated Northern Sea, ATCHPHRAS. Isabel didn't even need to exaggerate anything. She just pointed, smiled, and let the contradictions fall like dominoes. And then there's the economy. Oh dear, the economy. Starmer talks about financial responsibility like it's a new religion. He keeps Rachel Reeves nearby like a political lucky charm, hoping she ward off any memories of Labour's old spending habits. But Reeves' economic plan is basically cut spending, smile politely, and pray no one asks for details. The entire thing runs on vibes and borrowed conservative slogans.
It isn't because the man is stupid, it's because, and this is a theme I keep returning to, he lacks judgment. And that is so important for somebody at the top of politics. If you don't have the right judgment, you're not going to last long. So you ask the question, how does he get this off the front pages? Here's what I'm going to say about that. This is not going to go away until he reveals his...
And as for Rayner's ideas, F. Starmer's policies are like beige wallpaper. Then hers are more like a firework factory run by toddlers. Free stuff for everyone, all paid for with nothing but hope and maybe a progressive tax system. Borrowed from a fantasy world like Narnia, Oakeshott mocked the whole thing simply by repeating what Rayner herself had once claimed before pretending she never said it. One of Isabel's sharpest moments came when she compared Starmer's leadership. Styled to a broken sat-nav, always recalculating, never really knowing where he's going, and constantly promising a shortcut on lead to steer the country into a dead end of confusion and compromise. And Rayner, bless her, riding shotgun with a copy of The Guardian and no idea how maps work. The two of them, Starmer as the overly serious dad guiding a tense family road trip while secretly resenting everyone in the car, and Rayner as the loud cousin who downed 3 cans of Red Bull and now insists on being heard on a strong political team. They're more like a walking sitcom with no laugh track. Oakeshott didn't just take down their ideas, she went deeper. She questioned their entire political identities. Starmer's career, she implied, is basically performance art titled Avoiding Commitment. And Rayner, she's what happens when people mistake loud confidence for actual ability.
I don't know exactly what his secret is, but he sure as hell has got one or more secrets, and they relate in some way to Lord Ali and to his family. Now, I don't know how those two things overlap, but there is a secret there. There are papers all over this. They are waiting for their moment. There are people other than newspaper journalists.
Then came the moment Isabel truly landed the blow. She pointed out the clear contradiction in Starmer's obsession with law and order, you know? His favorite line about being the former director of public prosecutions and his total inability to control his own party. The labor benches are more divided than a pizza at a toddler's birthday party. And Starmer's way of handling it: pretend nothing's happening. Classic leadership move if you believe that ignoring a fire long enough will somehow put it out. Rayner's greatest hits are just as tragic. She somehow manages to be both the voice of the people and the voice most people wish would just stop and take a breath. Her speeches are a mix of half-remembered slogans shouted at full volume. She once called herself a warrior, which kind of fits. If your idea of war involves dramatic facial expressions while asking someone else to explain your battle plan, Oakeshott made painfully clear the Starmer-Rayner duo feels like a political blind date gone horribly wrong. One of them wants to play it safe and sip sparkling water, while the other's 3 jigger bombs deep. Yelling at the waiter about class betrayal, it's a total mismatch of energy. It's a clash of ideas and absolutely zero chemistry, unless you count mutual tolerance as romantic tension.
Well, when you were reading out the list of lefties that are going nuts about this, I was actually thinking Downing Street will be really happy at the spectacle of lefties going nuts, because it suggests that they're what they've announced is credible and believable and is genuinely, at least right of centre and a little bit Farage. It is none of the above. The lefties have no need to go nuts, because none of this is going to actually make a material difference.
And let's not forget the working class cosplay. Starmer, North London lawyer, can't even say Greg's without sounding like he's auditioning for the Crown. Desperately trying to connect with everyday people. Rayner, meanwhile, treats her background like a free pass from political criticism, as if growing up poor somehow makes every idea she has beyond question. Oakeshott exposed this act with the sharpness of someone who's clearly tired of watching the same old. Performance, even Starmer's big speeches fall flat. Every time he announces a defining mission, you can almost hear an advisor whispering, "Make it sound Churchill-like. Okay, but not too exciting." His climate plan, vague. His housing policy, basically just a shrug. His support for small businesses depends entirely on whether a camera is pointed at him. And there stood Isabel Oakeshott, calm and sharp as ever, saying what most people are already thinking. Starmer's whole election strategy seems to be don't offend anyone, which might win you Bake Off, but it won't help you lead a country. And Rayner? She's the gift that keeps on giving. The gift is a megaphone that only works in all caps. Oakeshott compared her speaking style to a broken pub quiz host. Confident, loud, and unfortunately misinformed. And the policies. Just a glitter cannon of promises no one seriously intends to pay for.
This new calling Keir Starmer Keith, I think that's deadly. I think it's as deadly as John Major tucking his shirt into his underpants. Remember that?
Absolutely, yeah. Who can forget it? And remember who wrote about his underpants, of course, that very serious political commentator, Mr. Alistair Campbell, who pretends now to be a very highfalutin and, you know, very high-thinking individual, but has forgotten that he used to write a column for the Daily Mirror, which was about as down and dirty as you could get.
Well, it was a phrase that stuck, wasn't it? And I'm quite keen on getting this Keith Starmer thing going, because he is Keith, really, isn't he? No offence to any Keiths that may be listening, but it just seems to suit Starmer to be called.
Even their latest campaign ads are just plain sad. Starmer stares thoughtfully out a window like a man trying to remember where he parked. Rayner stomps around a factory floor pretending she understands how supply chains work. It's political. Theater at its worst, authenticity turned into acting, sincerity used as a strategy. So what now? Starmer will likely keep doing his best impression of a political Swiss Army knife. Versatile, forgettable, and only useful in very specific emergencies. Rayner will keep shouting into microphones until someone mistakes the volume for meaning. And Oakeshott? She keep tearing their image apart with the calm confidence of someone who knows exactly how fake it all is, because in the end, Keir Starmer and Angela Rayner aren't offering a real vision for the future. They're a warning of what happens when belief is replaced with calculation and noise is mistaken for leadership. And Isabel Oakeshott, she's simply the one bold enough to say it out loud with a smirk, a pen, and zero patience for political nonsense. Now, go ahead, smash that like button harder than Starmer smashed Labour's credibility. And remember, some of the best political takedowns don't need shouting, just a scalpel. And Oakeshott's got plenty. Picture a man who treats every crisis like he's ordering a decaf latte measured, dull, and completely forgettable. That's the level of determination we're working with. Starmer treats urgency like it's an optional extra. He faces pressure with all the energy of a librarian dropped into a rave. He's mastered the art of looking involved while quietly calculating how many fences he can sit on before anyone realizes he's not actually moving.
They didn't deny these official projections which suggest that net immigration for the foreseeable next few years is likely to fall at around 500,000 people. Now, that was before today's announcement, but even Starmer's not saying this is going to slash immigration, is he? He's like, well, you know, I'd like it to come down. It has to come down. It's not too great for us. But it's just nowhere near enough. It's a kind of pale yellow, not a blood red, which is what people are crying.
Angela, on the other hand, charges into political debate like a wrecking ball in high heels, dramatic, loud, and mostly off-target. Her speaking style relies more on sheer volume than clarity, delivering arguments with all the subtlety of a foghorn in a quiet church. No depth, no structure, just a flood of slogans and the firm belief that shouting makes you right. Then in comes Oakeshott, once again holding criticism like a scalpel dipped in truth serum. She doesn't need to raise her voice, she simply takes things apart. With every sharp sentence, she strips away the polished surface and exposes the messy framework of confusion underneath. No distractions, no dodging, just a calm, ruthless spotlight on two politicians trying to fake their way through leadership with less substance than a reality TV reunion. And the scariest part? They actually think it's working.